I found it on a Tuesday. The truck wasn't mine. It belonged to my brother Mark. He'd let me borrow it while my car was in the shop, tossed me the keys with a grin and a "Don't wreck it." I hadn't driven it more than 15 minutes before I noticed the glint of something metallic wedged under the passenger seat. I reached down without thinking. My fingers curled around it. It was an earring. Not just any earring. Her earring. A delicate silver hoop with a tiny emerald inset. Custom made. One of a kind. I bought it for Lauren last year on her birthday. Had it made by a jeweler in Charleston. She wore them constantly. I knew that curve, that exact green hue, like I knew the line of her wrist or the way her voice dipped when she lied. I didn't react, not outwardly. I just slipped it into my pocket, stared through the rain-pocked windshield, and let the silence answer questions I hadn't even asked yet. I drove the truck home like nothing was wrong. Parked it. Walked inside. She was there, folding laundry, wearing that soft gray sweatshirt I always stole when I was cold. She smiled when she saw me. "How's Mark's beast holding up?" she asked, not looking up. "Fine," I said. "Found an earring in it, though." She laughed. "Probably some girl he's seeing." "Probably," I said and smiled back. She didn't flinch. Didn't miss a beat. That scared me more than if she had. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay next to her and watched the ceiling, her breathing slow and even beside me. I thought about every time she'd said she loved me. Every time she'd pulled me in close after a fight and said, "I don't want anyone else." I thought about Mark, the best man at our upcoming wedding, my only sibling, the guy I used to sneak beers with behind Dad's barn in high school. I didn't accuse. I didn't rage. I planned. The next morning, I dropped Mark's truck back at his place. He opened the door shirtless, laughing about some game he was watching. He looked relaxed, normal, like nothing in the world was off-kilter. "You find your girl's earring?" I asked, tossing him the keys. He raised an eyebrow. "What?" "Never mind," I said. "Must have been someone else's." He smirked. "You accusing me of having a dating life?" I laughed with him. Even clapped him on the shoulder. Inside, I was already building the foundation for a truth I knew would rot everything it touched. I didn't need to find out if they were hiding something. I needed to find out how deep it went. I didn't change anything. Not right away. That's how people get sloppy. They react too fast. I needed to play this like a long con. If they were guilty, they were hiding something big. People don't betray the ones closest to them over nothing. There's always a deeper reason. Guilt is a slow leak. It shows up in pressure points. So I smiled through the next few days. Played the doting fiancé, the dependable brother. I even told Lauren I was thinking of taking a weekend off to clear my head. Before the wedding stress ramped up. She said she'd miss me but told me I deserved the break. That should have felt sweet. Instead, it felt like a dare. Thursday morning, I picked up her phone while she was in the shower. Not to snoop, not yet. Just to look. We didn't have secrets. Or at least we weren't supposed to. I'd known her passcode for years. It had changed. I waited for her to come out of the bathroom, towel wrapped high, steam curling behind her like smoke from a gun barrel. I handed her the phone. "Your code changed?" She blinked just once. "Oh, yeah. Work said we needed to update passwords across the board for security." Smooth. Too smooth. She had answers ready. That wasn't normal. Later that night, while she scrolled through wedding venues, I pulled up our joint savings account. It wasn't a full audit, just a glance. We'd agreed to keep the wedding budget cap tight. But there were 3 unexplained withdrawals, boutique charges. One of them for nearly $1,000. "What's Bridges & Co.?" I asked casually. She didn't even look up. "That's the place that's doing the bridesmaids' dresses. Remember? We picked them out last month." "No, I remember the dresses. I just don't remember them costing that much." She paused. "Well, it's all of them. Plus custom sizing. It adds up." I let it drop. She leaned in and kissed my cheek, like that one line of justification had sealed the topic shut. But I bookmarked the page. I took screenshots. I started building a folder, digital, encrypted, and hidden on a drive no one touched but me. Saturday afternoon, I called Mark, told him I needed help lifting some furniture I'd bought. Total lie. I just needed him close, needed to see his face when I pressed a few things. He came by, drank my beer, complained about his boss, and barely glanced at Lauren when she came into the room. That should have reassured me. But it didn't. It felt rehearsed. I asked him if he was seeing anyone lately, As we moved boxes that didn't need moving, he grinned. Nah. Been too busy, honestly. Maybe after things calm down. You should have brought someone to the engagement party, I said. He shrugged. Didn't want to steal the spotlight. His phone buzzed while we were setting a box down. A single word popped up on the notification screen before he flipped it over. Same. The preview cut off the rest. No name. Just same. Like part of a text that followed something else. Later, I checked the security cam outside my place. It logs all entries and exits. I told Lauren we were changing providers and needed to reset it, just to justify the deep dive I was about to take. Mark had been by 3 times in the past 2 weeks when I wasn't home. Lauren never mentioned it. Once was the day I'd driven upstate for a meeting. She told me she was working late. The camera said otherwise. That night I tested something. Left my phone, charging, in the bedroom while I sat in the living room with the tablet linked to it. Quiet. Hidden. I sent Mark a text from my phone. You left something in the truck. Within a minute, the read receipt pinged. 30 seconds later, he replied. What did you find? Not. What do you mean? Not. I didn't leave anything. Just pure panic, masked as calm curiosity. Then another message came through. Did she say anything? She. That pronoun hit like a hammer. He didn't name her. Didn't need to. In his mind, the she was already known, already implied. No ambiguity. No hesitation. I didn't reply. I turned the tablet off and sat there in the dark. The kind of stillness that only happens when a part of your life has just broken, and you're listening to the echoes of it falling apart. But this wasn't over. I wasn't done. I was just getting started. By the time Monday came around, I had her phone cloned. It wasn't easy. I had to bring in someone I trusted, a guy I knew from college who owed me a favor and didn't ask questions. Within 24 hours, I could see her messages in real time. Every emoji. Every deleted draft. Every lie typed out in digital ink. The first day, nothing. Second day, a conversation with a coworker about the wedding, normal stuff, flowers, colors, guest lists. I almost let my guard down. Then came Wednesday night. She was on the couch, watching some reality dating show she loved, curled up with a blanket and a glass of wine. I was at the kitchen counter pretending to balance our finances. My tablet buzzed, muted face down. One message came in from a contact saved only as a single initial, M. Next Friday works. He's out of town, right? Then another. Don't be late this time. Still taste you on my tongue. My stomach didn't turn. It didn't drop. It just stilled. Like the calm before impact. I didn't have to wonder who M was. I didn't need to check against other messages. I already knew. I watched her laugh at the TV like nothing in the world was wrong. She had no idea she just detonated whatever little hope I had left. The next few days blurred together. I barely slept. I studied every message that passed between them. Carefully crafted lies, coded language, timestamps that filled in the blanks I hadn't wanted to admit. They were using my schedule to plan their time together. They mocked me in metaphor. She called him familiar, in a way she never called me. She lied better than some people breathe. But what broke me wasn't the filth in their messages. It was the logistics. The way she'd planned her stories ahead. How they coordinated alibis. How she'd used my own family against me to construct her narrative. One night, I checked our joint email account. It was linked to the wedding planner and vendor logins, mostly harmless. That's when I found the invoice. A boutique hotel 2 towns over. Paid in full, booked under her maiden name. The reservation lined up with a night she told me she was in New Jersey for a bridal expo with her college friend Jenna. I called Jenna the next day. Told her Lauren had lost something sentimental during their trip. Asked her which hotel they'd stayed at. Confusion. Pause. What trip? I thanked her, hung up, and stared at the floor for 10 straight minutes. By the end of that week, I had a dozen printed documents, financials, text messages, receipts, security footage, phone logs. A compiled record of betrayal that could stand up in court. I still hadn't confronted either of them. That wasn't the plan. They didn't deserve warning. What I needed was confirmation of one last piece. The part one kept shoving away every time I looked at her face. The one lie I didn't want to be true. The pregnancy. 3 weeks ago, she told me in a voice choked with tears that she was expecting. She cried in my arms. Said she was terrified but happy. I remember holding her, and thinking that maybe all the doubts were just in my head. That maybe this, a new life, our life, would wipe away the fear. But things didn't add up. Dates. Numbers. Her symptoms didn't match. She never showed me a test. Just the story. So I made a quiet call. I'd been friends with her OB's assistant ever since we did a charity run together last year. She owed me a favor too. A week later, a plain envelope arrived in my office mailbox. Inside, a one-page printout. Lab confirmation. Appointment history. And at the bottom, in clinical, indifferent print, estimated conception window. It didn't match me. It matched the week I'd been overseas. I still had the boarding passes to prove it. She was pregnant. Just not by me. And Mark, he'd been local that whole week. I stared at that paper like it was a photograph of a ghost. All those nights of tenderness, the sobs, the quiet hope she painted like a masterpiece. It was theater. A costume stitched from convenience and nerves. She had gambled that I'd believe her, that I'd trust her, that the bond we had would blind me. She bet wrong. I stared at the ceiling that night, listening to her breathe beside me. Soft, steady, trusting. She lay in my bed, our bed, with my ring on her finger and my brother's secret growing inside her. And I didn't move, because the game wasn't over. I woke before dawn, careful not to disturb her. I went into the guest room, where I'd been stashing everything: printed texts, credit card statements, screenshots, surveillance stills. The earring was there too, in a small velvet box like it was waiting to be gifted again. I laid the DNA lab results next to it, the printout clean, clinical. No need for dramatics, just truth, cold and permanent. I called in sick to work that morning, not because I couldn't face the day, but because I needed time. I needed to finish building the final move. I spent the day at a notary's office, drafting a sworn statement outlining the financial fraud she'd committed using our joint accounts, purchases she'd made claiming they were wedding-related, then delivered straight to an address I didn't recognize. When I mapped it, it was Mark's apartment. A second affidavit detailed the unauthorized use of my social security number to open a line of credit. I'd discovered that 2 nights earlier while going over our credit report line by line. She hadn't even bothered to use a fake address. That told me everything I needed to know about how arrogant she'd become. That evening, while she was in the shower, I placed a small, unmarked manila envelope under her pillow. Inside, a printout of the hotel invoice, the messages between her and Mark, and a note I typed that morning. You had options. You chose this. I didn't wait for her to find it. I didn't want the confrontation to come from my mouth anymore. She didn't deserve my voice. Later, I texted Mark. We need to talk. Your place. 1 hour. He replied immediately. Everything okay? I didn't answer. I pulled up to his place and let myself in with the key he'd forgotten I still had. He wasn't home yet. That was fine. I needed time to set the stage. I placed the earring on his pillow. Beside it, the DNA results. Beside that, a printed list I'd typed the night before. It read like a breakup letter. But it wasn't addressed to Mark. It was addressed to Lauren. A list of everything she just lost, line by line. The wedding, the house, joint savings, my legal silence, my last ounce of empathy. I didn't sign it. I didn't have to. As I was walking out, I left the apartment door unlocked. Let them walk into the truth together. Let the walls close in on their own time. I didn't go home that night. I drove out to a friend's cabin an hour upstate and sat on the porch watching the sky go black. My phone buzzed nonstop. Her, him, unknown numbers. I didn't check a single one. It was over, or so I thought. The next morning, I went back into town to clear out the last of my things from our place. The engagement ring was still on the counter, where I'd left it. Her phone was on the floor, cracked. That's when I noticed the manila envelope was gone from under her pillow. And that's when I saw the envelope waiting for me on the front step. Legal letterhead. Cease and desist. I opened it slowly, hands steady. Inside was a letter from her lawyer, accusing me of harassment, coercion, and digital privacy violations. And there it was, my name, distorted on paper. A threat. I turned the page. Attached was a photocopy of a marriage license, filed 2 weeks ago. Lauren and Mark. Different county. Different state. Same knife. Driven deeper. I read the license 3 times, waiting for my brain to find the trick, the glitch, the forgery. But it was real. Stamped. Dated. Filed in the same courthouse where my parents had once renewed their vows. It wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated replacement. They weren't planning to just keep this quiet. They were planning to erase me. I sat there on the front step, the sun rising behind me like a spotlight on a man who didn't yet know the play was over and he'd already lost. My phone buzzed again. Another unknown number. I let it ring. A few minutes later, it vibrated with a voicemail. I listened. It was Mark. His voice was tight, breathless. "Hey, man. We need to talk. You went too far. This isn't how we wanted this to go. She's not thinking straight. Neither of us planned for this to explode. I tried to keep things clean. But you made this ugly. You started digging. You pushed her. Now it's all on record. You need to back off. Seriously." I stared out at the road as the last words echoed in my ear. You made this ugly. That was the story now. I had become the villain in their fairy tale. The unstable ex. The controlling, obsessive one. The narrative had flipped, and they were laying the groundwork fast. I opened the envelope again, read the legal phrasing. Accusations of cyberstalking. Invasion of privacy. Emotional intimidation. It wasn't enough that they'd taken each other. They were trying to take my name. I drove straight to my lawyer's office. We'd worked together once when I helped a client sort out estate issues. A quiet man, sharp eyes, no patience for drama. I laid everything on the table. Not just the betrayal, but the identity fraud, the joint account abuse, the messages, the notarized statements, the receipts. He didn't blink. "We'll file a protective rebuttal immediately," he said. "And I'll have a forensic analyst look into the phone logs. If she tries to escalate, we'll have evidence in place." I nodded. "And if she goes public?" His mouth flattened. "Then we take it public too. With precision. Not emotion." It wasn't about revenge anymore. Not really. It was about survival. They were trying to scorch the earth I walked on and plant a new version of me in its place. One no one would trust. By that afternoon, my bank accounts were restructured. My passwords changed. Credit freeze initiated. Legal countersuit in draft. I called my parents. Didn't give them the full story, just enough. My mother wept softly into the phone. My father said nothing for a long time, then asked one question. "Did Mark look you in the eye?" I couldn't answer, because the truth was worse than the lie. Mark had looked me in the eye. He'd laughed with me, handed me a beer, asked if I was excited to be a husband. He hadn't blinked. The rest of that week blurred. Friends called. Some had heard pieces of the story already, twisted fragments, half-truths. Some believed me. Others didn't say much at all. That silence hurt more than I expected. But the worst blow came Friday morning. An email from our wedding venue. Subject line: Event status confirmation. Inside, a request for confirmation from Lauren and Mark regarding their new reservation. Same venue, different date. They were taking our wedding, our place, our future, and slotting their names over mine like I never existed. That was the moment I stopped grieving. I started documenting. Not just for court, not just to clear my name, but for something deeper, something final. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Not when every breath I took felt like borrowed air from a life I didn't recognize anymore. I sat at the kitchen table until sunrise, surrounded by papers, screenshots, legal printouts, the autopsy of a relationship dissected in court-ready files. Every line of text, every number, every timestamp was another stitch unraveling the false reality they'd wrapped around me. I made coffee I didn't drink, answered emails I couldn't read. Then I picked up the phone and made 3 calls. The first was to the wedding venue. I requested an in-person meeting, polite and professional, under the guise of resolving a billing discrepancy. The coordinator, an older woman with a pinched voice and too much politeness, agreed to meet that afternoon. The second was to Jenna, the same friend Lauren had lied about during that fake bridal expo weekend. Jenna picked up sounding cautious, like she knew too much already but didn't want to be part of it. I asked her one question. "Did Lauren tell you I hurt her?" Silence. Then she whispered. "She said you were unpredictable. That you'd been watching her, tracking her." The knot in my chest tightened, not with grief, but something sharper. Focus. "Did she say I ever laid a hand on her?" I asked. Another pause. "No. She said you never touched her. Just watched. Said she didn't feel safe." I thanked her, ended the call, and stared at the wall for a full minute. They weren't just trying to bury me socially. They were digging the grave ahead of time, brick by brick, story by story. The third call I made was to the venue's corporate parent. I posed as a prospective client, asking about date availability, cancellation policies, identity verification. Then I casually asked what their process was if two different couples tried to book under similar names or circumstances. The manager laughed. That'd be messy. We require full identity verification for all updated bookings, legal documents, signatures, both parties present. It's strict. Good, I said and hung up. That afternoon, I walked into the venue. The same white-columned building where we'd taken our engagement photos. Where she cried when she saw the garden set up lit with fairy lights. All of it meaningless now. The coordinator met me in her office. I smiled, warm and controlled. There's been a mistake, I said. I'm here to cancel our wedding. She frowned. But Lauren already. I'm the original booking party. Here are the legal documents proving identity theft. Fraud. You'll find the attached affidavit from my attorney as well. I slid the folder across her desk. Her eyes scanned the papers. Her posture changed. I see. This is more serious than I understood. I nodded. Cancel it. Today. And I'd suggest removing both their names from your registry. Permanently. She nodded quickly, already dialing a number. I left without another word. An hour later, I sent a message to Lauren. No anger. No pleading. Just a photo, the empty wedding venue contract, shredded, beside the ring box. She didn't respond. That evening, Mark showed up at my front door. He didn't knock, just stood there, staring at me like he wanted to believe something was salvageable. He opened his mouth. I beat him to it. Not here to talk, I said. Just here to listen to you lie again? His jaw clenched. You had no right to nuke everything. No, I said. I had every right to end what you both were trying to rewrite. This wasn't a mistake, Mark. It was a campaign. He didn't deny it. That's what made it worse. She's scared, he muttered. She should be, I said. He flinched like I'd hit him. You don't get to play the victim, I added. Neither of you. You tried to rebrand my life in your image. You lied. Stole. Framed me for things I didn't do. And now? Now you're going to live in the crater you both made. He turned to go, but I stopped him one last time. By the way, I said, you might want to check your email. You'll find the fraud report I submitted this morning. Both your names are on it. I shut the door before he could speak. Back inside, the silence wasn't peaceful, but it was honest. Later that night, I received one more message. Not from her, not from him, but from someone I hadn't heard from in weeks, one of the groomsmen. Attached was a screenshot, a new post from Lauren's social media, a photo of her hand, ringless. Captioned, sometimes the truth finds you in the silence. No comments, no likes. Just the sound of something collapsing in real time. I didn't respond to the post. I didn't share it. I didn't even screenshot it. I just stared at it until the screen blurred and my pulse slowed to something close to quiet. The storm should have been over by then. I'd expected them to go underground, lick their wounds, spin some excuse, maybe relocate the whole circus to some other town. But Lauren didn't disappear. She escalated. It started 2 days later, when a message came in from a number I didn't recognize. It was a screenshot of a dating profile. Mine. Full name, real photo, fake bio. Claims of aggressive tendencies. Preferences that didn't belong to me. The profile had already been flagged and removed by the time I followed the link, but it had been active long enough to be screenshotted and shared. Then came the emails, messages forwarded from mutual acquaintances asking if I'd really been let go from my job. If I was under investigation. If I had issues with women. I still don't know exactly how many rumors she'd seeded before everything came crashing down. But it was enough that even people I trusted started reaching out, not to accuse, but to check in. That's when I knew she hadn't just wanted out. She'd wanted me erased. I spent the next week working with a digital forensics consultant. I gave him access to everything: text archives, IP logs, server records. We built a digital timeline of every data point I'd collected. What he uncovered made everything else feel like warm-up acts. Buried in her cloud backups, in a secondary account she'd accidentally synced to her phone months ago, were notes. Not messages. Not screenshots. Notes. Written like journal entries but structured like a strategy guide. Planning sessions. There were drafts of fake reports, allegations, a full mock-up of an HR complaint addressed to my company. She hadn't filed it, but it was ready. There were email templates, one written from an ex, warning other women about me, another pretending to be a concerned coworker reporting erratic behavior. The language was chilling, clinical. Pre-written guilt in neat little paragraphs. And worse, one file contained a backup of an old message thread between her and Mark, dated 6 months before I found the earring. One line stood out, from her. "He trusts us completely. We could burn his life down in an afternoon." That was it. That was the moment the illusion of accidental betrayal shattered completely. This wasn't heartbreak. It was warfare. I printed everything. Not for revenge. Not even for legal retaliation, though I knew I had every right. I printed it because I needed to see it all in one place. The scale. The pattern. The rot. I boxed the papers, sealed them, labeled them with a date, and stored them in a fireproof safe under a new name in a new apartment. Then I wrote a final letter. Not to her. Not to him. To myself. Just 4 lines. "You were never crazy. You saw what they were and hoped they'd prove you wrong. They didn't. Now prove yourself right, and rebuild. No aftermath. No forgiveness arc. Just the truth, delivered with precision, preserved in silence, and left behind like a locked vault they'll never break open again."